Viking expeditions functioned with the precision of a high-stakes financial venture. Every longship launched was part of a calculated maritime network that relied on specific capital requirements and strict risk management. The geography of Scandinavia imposed severe constraints on its people. Brutal winters, steep mountainsides, and deep fjords left very little flat, arable land to support a growing population. These domestic resource deficits created an intense systemic pressure. To survive, the Norsemen treated the ocean as a highway, looking outward to secure the calories and materials they could no longer produce at home. Success required massive upfront capital. Felling timber, crafting the hull, forging iron rivets, and supplying a crew for weeks on the open water was the medieval equivalent of a six-figure investment. Because a single farmer couldn't afford this overhead, wealthy chieftains and early investors would pool their money to fund the voyage. These backers provided the capital while the crew provided the labor. If the raid succeeded, everyone involved took a pre-negotiated cut of the profits. This funding model turned Viking expansion into a maritime engine designed to secure resources and deliver massive payouts to the investors bankrolling the ships. Despite their fearsome reputation, the Norsemen faced a difficult operational reality. Actual combat on European shores was an expensive liability that often ruined their profit margins. Losing a crew member in battle represented the loss of an experienced asset. Replacing that raider required the expedition to return home, recruit a new fighter, and invest time in training, creating significant logistical delays. Material maintenance created a further capital drain. Swords, axes, and armor were constantly blunted or shattered in combat, requiring a steady, expensive supply of fresh iron to keep the crew operational. The highest risk, however, was structural. If a longship took damage or sank in hostile waters, the entire venture was liquidated, and the investors lost their initial seed money completely. Constant fighting was a failing business model. To protect their returns, the Vikings pivoted their resource extraction strategy away from the battlefield. The Vikings realized their reputation for violence was a more valuable asset than the violence itself. They began leveraging the mere threat of an attack to extract wealth without a fight. This led to the Danegeld, a massive extortion racket. A fleet would sail to a wealthy city like Paris and demand a heavy ransom in exchange for a peaceful departure. European kings ran the numbers. Defending meant astronomical costs for armies and rebuilding a burned capital. Compared to that ruin, paying silver was the logical option. For Vikings, it provided maximum revenue with zero deductions for repairs or lost personnel. This racket safely transferred millions of pounds of liquid wealth back to Scandinavian investors without a single drop of blood being shed. The Danegeld persisted because it served the financial interests of everyone involved. It was a mutually understood medieval mafia shakedown. This golden age of extortion eventually ended due to a market correction. Over several centuries, European defenses evolved, changing the geopolitical landscape and the profitability of the raid. European kingdoms made massive investments in physical infrastructure. They built heavily fortified stone castles and river blockades that made it impossible for Viking fleets to reach their targets. Alongside these massive fortifications, monarchs centralized their wealth and established professional standing armies capable of repelling long-distance fleets. These adaptations tilted the risk-to-reward ratio. Sacking a city now meant facing a trained military from behind a stone wall, turning once reliable extortion into a prohibitively expensive gamble. As the extortion market dried up, the Vikings acted as rational economic opportunists. They settled down permanently in the regions they had once raided, transitioning from pirates to landowners. They married into local nobility and adopted the Christian faith to secure their political standing, eventually fully assimilating into the European feudal system. The Viking Age ended as the profitability of raiding and extortion collapsed. This era shows how history, even at its most violent, is shaped by supply chains, macroeconomic incentives, and the pursuit of optimized profit margins.